One of the things that I'll quickly touch on in this video is know yourself and work by your timing. Now, I see you've seen the topic. I actually want to talk about failure and recovering from a time that you failed. But one of the things that I want to quickly touch on is the ability to know yourself and know how God is working with you and what God is doing in you, for you, and through you per time, per season. Because I realize that what happens to a lot of us sometimes is we're working with somebody else's timeline. You know, you see what other people are doing, what they're not doing, and somehow you pattern your life with these people, not knowing that what God is doing in you, for you, and through you is very different. I want to touch on failure today, and I'm talking about this because something happened to someone very close to me in this, recent season that is like the bottomest bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. You know, when those kinds of things happen to you that you're like, there's actually no more lower from this low. So where do we go? And when situations like that happen to us, it takes the grace of God and just that ability to be able to look outside of yourself and to look outside of your present circumstance, right? To be able to grow from that place, knowing and understanding that since you're at the bottom anyways, and we think really there's nowhere else to go, then you can only go up and high and rise from there. And I want to tell a personal story. There was a time in my life where I really felt like I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I had released my second documentary film at the time. I had done a first documentary film in 2011. And this was my second documentary film, which I had just released. I'd released in the middle of that year. So one of the things that I wanted to do as the year was rounding up was to also, in terms of also finding or seeking distribution for this work and this project that I had created. And this is for anybody who is in any space where you're creating things and you're finding ways to put them out there, ways to show the world what you're doing. And that's what I just wanted to do at the time, just to show the world what I was doing and what I was capable of doing. So I was seeking distribution for this documentary film, and I was not even looking, it wasn't anything paid. Like I said, for me at the time, it was a passion project. I had spent personal money on hundreds of thousands of naira I had spent on that project. So in December, I wanted to have a series of screenings. I'd reached out to secondary schools, I'd reached out to all sorts of places, universities, and I also wanted to get venues where I could screen this documentary. So I got a venue at the time. A friend of mine had set up this art gallery that could be a pop-up space for different kinds of things. And so I went to him. We had attended University of Lagos together, and I went to him and I said, oh, can I use your gallery for this? Let's find a partnership and everything. And he lovingly agreed. So, what's the next thing I'll do? Obviously, social media. I had put it on Facebook at the time. I wasn't on Instagram at the time, but I'd blasted it on Facebook. Remember, I had released this video in July of that year, and it had gotten sort of like a buzz. So we had done a screening in July that was uber successful. We had hundreds of people come to the screening that was done. So that gave me that encouragement to say, Toyin, you're on the right track. So even when I was putting it on social media and saying, oh, I'm screening this film, I think if I'm correct, I was still using a BlackBerry at the time. So I also did a BlackBerry broadcast, put it on Facebook. The feedback was great for that particular screening that I wanted to do. It was first in the month of December. It was about the 20th or the 21st of December. So realize that December is also a busy period to do things. But my thought at the time was, if I put this in December, then I'm giving people somewhere to go. I'm giving people something to do. Oh my God, it was such an epic fail. Anyways, let me get straight into the story. So on this fateful day, it was a Saturday evening. I think it was a 7 p.m. screening, if I remember correctly. I was done, I was set. The space could take about 100 chairs. Everything was excellently and beautifully set up. We started to wait for people to arrive. 6 p.m., that's good. 6:30, 6:45. Nobody had arrived. 6:50, nobody had arrived. So, when you're doing something like that, first your heart is in your mouth and you're really believing that at least pata, you've sort of done your gauging on social media, you're like, okay, you know, people that are saying yes, we'll come, we want to see it, we've heard so much about it, at least 70 people will come. Last, ibad, 50 people will come. Okay, they have places to go to, 30 people, pata will come. Okay, even if it's that bad, 20 people, you get my point, right? Now I'm sounding like Abraham was telling God, if there are 5 people, will you destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah? Anyways, to cut this long story short, about 5 minutes to 7, 2 people walking. 2 people. And I'm like, okay, God, what's going on? Where is everybody? I remember going back to my phone, picking up my phone, looking at, maybe I got this thing wrong. People were showing interest. People were saying they were going to come. 2 people came. We said we'll start by 7. Obviously, we said, okay, let's just wait a bit till 7:30. Nobody else came for that screening. These 2 people that came were not even friends or frenemies or enemies. These 2 guys walked in, and one of them said, oh, he just heard about it somewhere, and he had told himself that he was going to come, and he thought to bring along a friend. Now, I had 2 options with me. I had set up all of this. I was even already asking myself that question when there was no people, right? And I was telling myself, if nobody shows up, will you show this video to the empty chairs? And I told myself, yes, I will. Now, you would wonder why I made that decision, because I had heard a message a while back preached by my pastor, who had said how another minister was telling a testimony, at some conference he went to, and minister talks about how when he was growing his church, there was one of those days, when you prayed passionately through the week, God, this week, let there be people in church, hundreds of people and all of that. And this man of God gets to church and there is nobody. And it was like the test of his life. And it was almost like he heard God saying, would you still passionately preach, even if there are empty chairs? So when at 7:50-ish, there was nobody there, and I was having that conversation with myself, saying, what's going to happen if nobody actually comes for this screening? I had said, you know what? I'll play the video to empty chairs. I remember that story, and I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to honor God and honor the fact that I said the screening. Nobody shows up, it is well. We'll play it. Remember that the person that I'd had the place from was there. He was there with a friend that also helped with the setup. So there was a part of me that was feeling very highly embarrassed and ashamed as well. Like, after all this noise you made, nobody come for this screening. And it was meant to be a partnership, meaning that the idea, my using it wasn't even that I was paying him money. It was that people would come, see the space, see the artwork. Maybe some other people would also show interest in using the space. So that was my selling point. But alas, my selling point was about to crash. Anyways, the 2 people walk in, and about 7:30, we start the video, we end the screening, we still have a discussion with these 2 people, and that was the end of the screening. And guys, I went home and I felt like an epic failure. I couldn't understand what had gone wrong, right? I couldn't understand, did I get it wrong? What happened? Remember that I was coming from a screening when the film premiered that was highly successful and that had had some form of buzz. So on the height of that was when I was doing this, and different things that even happened before then that had also given me some platforms to talk about this film. So I expected that anything that I'll do from then would be uber successful, but now I just felt like epic failure. Anyways, what did I do? Eventually, when I came out of that, I learned some lessons that I have sort of applied into my life going forward, because one of the things that almost happened to me then was I almost defined myself by that failure. And it is these lessons that I just want anyone watching this to take away from this video, anyone who really feels like you're also in that space where your life isn't making sense. You've tried things, it's not working. Everything you have tried just seems back to back failure. And you're just like, is my life even making any meaning? Is this thing, this path that I have chosen making sense? So when I came out of that, it took a while of really just talking to myself and telling myself, Tony, it happens. These are the lessons that I learned. Number 1, never define yourself by an occurrence. Very important. Never define yourself by an occurrence. things will happen. Things will happen in life, whether they are to test us, whether they are to show us that we ourselves could have done better, change strategy, maybe something happened. By the time you are assessing the situation, you realize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways you could have done things differently or better. But to define yourself by that occurrence and to make a permanent decision based on a temporary condition will put you in trouble. I remember a friend of mine calling me in 2015 and she was like, Tony, when are you making your next documentary? I just said, I'm coming, we'll do it. She said, you know what, because I think what you're doing is amazing, is this. And I couldn't open my mind to tell her that next documentary. I've not even survived the failure of the last one. And the documentary wasn't a failure. It was just that one occurrence that made me feel like what I was expecting out of it did not happen. So number one, like I said, never define yourself by any occurrence of failure. Number two, don't waste your time in that state of mind. Like, I wasted time. Don't waste your time in that state of mind. Come out of it quickly. Like, rise up quickly. Something has happened to you. You failed. Now, I always say, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to break your head, break your head. If you want to, whatever you want to do. But give that even a timeline. If you say, you know what, okay, I think I need 1 month to be moody. Pick a date. 7th of May to 7th of June. 1 month is over. Once the 8th of June comes, move. And I'm being very stressed about what I'm saying, because sometimes as well, we can always say, oh, rise, but it's not easy. Pain itself needs a process, right? But we need to even begin to give pain an expiry date. Because if not, pain is going to take your time and take your life. And you'll eventually wake up and get up from that thing. And then you look back again at all the time you've wasted. And that can start even another journey of depression in itself that is not necessary. So don't waste your time stewing over that thing. Give it a period if you need a mourning period. And once you do, get up from it and say, how do we begin to heal from this? And that takes me right into number 3. Do your research. Even after the failure. Speak to people about it. One of the things that happens is we're even too ashamed. I couldn't tell people. Guys, I couldn't say it. I could not tell anybody. Only 2 people attended that screening. So whenever people ask me, I would just say I was fine. It was fine. It was fine. Because I couldn't even say it. But what I should have done, looking back, is going to meet people that I know that have done things in that line, done things like that. This is what happened though. What did I do wrong? And receive advice. Because the answer is always there. But because we're so closed, or you allow shame to close you, you allow embarrassment to keep you in, you just stay limited. I should have sought advice quicker. Like, okay, fine, I did a screening, people didn't show up. What next can I do with this project? What next can I do? How next should I move from this? And you'll be surprised at the kind of answers that you get. So let's stop this thing of being silent when we fail, because we feel we'll be judged by others. Those that will judge you will judge you. Carry your bag and say thank you, goodbye. But the fear of being vulnerable, of being open, of bearing our scars makes that wound last longer. And it is not necessary. Talk about it quickly and the world will move on. You'll be surprised how many things people have gone through. Now, another thing that I would share, my point number 4, is look back at your strategy and what happened. In looking back at my strategy, I learned one very important lesson. Guys, this is very important. Don't use social media sometimes as a metric. We do it a lot, right? You put out something, you have 200 likes. Somewhere in your mind, you think really 200 people are committed to you. They might like it. But if you then go the next level, okay, maybe buy this, purchase this, come for this, attend this, you might find only 50. Meanwhile, you are prepared for 200. And what I feel I should have done was, instead of just having an image to say, oh, come, and I'm seeing comments, one thing I could have done was have a registration process. So that really gives me, because if someone sees an event, for example, and they say, oh, register to attend, the fact that they've gone the next step to register shows at least a next level of desire or commitment. Now, don't get me wrong, even registration safe. Some people don't show up after they register. But at least that shows you a second step of commitment. So if 1,000 people see something they want to come for, maybe 500 people, because that effort to even go pick up your phone, www.something, your name, your email, register, that in itself takes effort. So anybody that crosses that line has applied some effort. So if 1,000, you see 1,000 likes, you see 500 registered, then you can say that might be a better metric to say, okay, even in this 500, when the day comes, somebody might say, I had a wedding, something happened to me, I had to do this. So maybe 200 and 150 will show up. But that just gives you better metrics, right? Don't just believe what you see on social media, because sometimes it's just misleading each and every one of us. Number 5 lesson that I learned, the time of the year. Now, remember that I said this was December. This was 4 days before Christmas. My reason for choosing that was because I felt a lot of people have a lot of downtime in December. So maybe they need places to go, and this would be one event in the many events that already happened in December. So I think I sort of judged the situation wrongly, and it just might happen another way in another time, you never know. But looking back now, I might put something like that on in a time where there's less activity. This was the Saturday, I think, just before Christmas, if I'm correct. It was a Saturday evening. Already people have things to do on Saturday evenings. And a lot of things that were happening at that time, even in that period as well, were Christmas carols. So a lot of people were having Christmas carols in their churches and everything. You know, so somehow in all of that, I just believe that no problem, they can do that. But at least some people will come for Christmas carol. Some people will say, I'm going for film screening, you know. But apparently, people were already committed to a lot of things. So even if they desired to come for your program, the timing was just not right. So timing, I think I sort of got the timing wrong. And it's important as well when you're doing certain things. The right timing is key, because people might want to be committed, but the timing is just not working for them. So I would have changed my timing to maybe not a December. Like I said, when I did this in July, it was a full house. We almost didn't even have places to sit people. So that I did it in December and people didn't show up. Might not have been a situation of people didn't want to show up, but the timing was just wrong. And my lesson 6, final lesson, keep moving forward. You know, like I said, I think in the first or second lesson, don't let your failure keep you in a state of immobility. Don't let your failure keep you in a state of stagnation, because that's one of the things that pain comes to do. We stay stagnated. Meanwhile, if you are still alive on this earth, one day you have to wake up and move. That time you wasted staying stagnant or just staying immobile or just dying while you're alive, it's not necessary. Keep moving forward. Do something, do the next thing you know to do. Very important. If the next thing you know to do is seek advice, if the next thing you know to do is you already had something else you're working on, if the next thing you know to do is just do the next thing you know to do, while sometimes you're even still trying to understand why this failure occurred. But by the grace of God, let there be constant motion. Let there be constant motion, and don't let that thing hold you down. And so these are my lessons on my journey of failure. And I've had different things that I've failed at, guys. Not even just this one. This one is one of those more, you know, obvious ones. There are different things that you don't necessarily put out there. Maybe you had as a goal, you had as something, you thought by May 2021 you would have done this. Meanwhile, you tried it. Nobody even knows. It's just one goal that was in your mind that you had written down, but the projections are not what you expected. The feedback is not that you thought you get, is not what you received. Don't stay there. Move forward. Find better ways. Research on it. Speak to people that are working in that line. Is very important. This thing about speaking to people, will be surprised how it will deliver many of us. Speak to people that are working in that line. Speak out. We say we are sorosoke. Speak out. Seek for help. Bible says in the multitude of counselors there is safety. Okay. I think I have made my point known. I am very passionate about this subject because, like I said, something happened to someone in my space, and just seeing how the person was responding, I just thought to myself, you know what, failure is not the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new world. I felt it. Failure is never the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new world. And if we only responded to it right, you know, there's this thing we always say, oh, what's your greatest fear? The fear of failure. Leave that one. What's the fear of failure? You're failing forward. You're learning how not to, so that you can learn how to and continue to soar. Amen. Glad to be back on the streets of YouTube. Now I know the Bible reading. You might think I've stopped Bible reading. No, I've not stopped Bible reading. I just thought there were too many things going on this channel, and I've created a new channel, Reading the Bible, just for Bible reading. And that one, we're actually reading Genesis. We're reading the whole Bible at the same time. One day we'll get to the end. So I'll put the link in the description box below. If you're on this channel and you were ardently following the Bible reading sessions, they're still ongoing. I'm just going to covet your prayers for grace to be able to do all of the doables and to do them well in the mighty name of Jesus. On this note, I have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, like if you like the video, comment if you'd like to share your thoughts on this subject as well. And until the next time, I will see you again. Bye.